What's up guys, Nate here with Holley Racing, coming at you with a short little video here. Now I've had this little issue since I got the car running with this new carburetor and everything, where I would basically let off the gas and push the clutch in neutral and come up to a stop, and the RPMs would be hanging, and then I'd have to basically like flick the gas pedal to get the throttle to snap back and return all the way to the idle position. And I've been kind of stumped on this for a little while because I couldn't figure out why. It's a brand new carb, I shouldn't have any crazy issues, you know, everything should be fine, and everything appears to be in mechanical order. But I'm noticing something here. On this newer Street Warrior, this little throttle bracket armature bolts onto the throttle shaft, whereas the older style, this was all pressed together and it had a screw on the other side basically holding it into the throttle plate at the bottom of the carb. But it's probably going to be hard to tell on camera, but you see how there's like them two little plates on the throttle rod are like not sitting perfectly straight, and you can see that back plate here. I'm talking about, where's my finger at? These two little guys right here. You see how there's two plates here and they're kind of like slightly misaligned, and if you notice, it almost looks like it's off compared to the idle speed screw that you see here. And it took me a little while to realize it, but I guess if you stare at something long enough, eventually you'll figure something out. But, so my issue is like, here's like idle position when I let off the throttle, and then that's what I have to return to like my idle speed, right? What's happening is on the underside here where we can't see, but I'll show you guys here in a second when I rip this carb off, the plate is sidestepping this screw basically, which is where I'm getting this movement from. So this is actually what my idle speed should be according to the screw, and this is sidestepping that idle screw. So let me pull this carb off real quick and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. All right, so our carburetor is off. Everything's still looking really good in there. Quick note, the phenolic spacers versus the aluminum counterparts are supposed to help keep the carburetor temps lower than said intake temps, especially on NA cars, because intake manifolds get hot, especially when they're bolted to the motor. So to help keep the heat down and keep your carburetor from boiling over or anything like that, you can use phenolic spacers to help isolate them from the intake. But back to the main issue at hand here. So we have the carburetor sitting over here on my trusty dusty bench grinder, and this is what I want to show you guys. So as you can see, these two plates that are somewhat misaligned on this throttle shaft here, with a nut holding it, not pressed on like the earlier versions of these carburetors. Let me zoom in here. You see the idle curb, like the adjustment screw, and you see what I mean about when I say sidestepping that bracket. So that's what sets your curb idle speed. Now when I move this armature, you can see it's actually been wearing a groove into said armature. So out of the box, this was probably fine, but as vibrations and mileage got put on this, it started wearing its groove into that armature. So I'm gonna see if I can figure out a solution for this that doesn't compromise this carburetor. I'll let you know what I come up with. I want to point out something too. We're in my parts room right now. These are two different carburetors. I just want to point that out. Pressed on throttle arm. Pressed on throttle arm. Just wanted to point that out real quick. But as you can see, the arm is centered on the curb idle screw, if I can get my camera to focus on it. But you can see it is centered on it, which is what ideally you'd want. This one as well. This is a double pumper. Again, armature is centered on the idle speed screw. So these armatures also both appear to be tighter in configuration than the one on the carb we've been using. And so I've been doing some poking and prodding here, and I finally figured it out, and I actually figured out a solution. So again, these two plates here, the one closest to me, the inside one, this is all one piece. As you can see here, everything is all hooked up, it's all bent together and stamped together and whatnot. The only thing that doesn't really belong is this back piece here that, as you can see, gets screwed into this big bracket. So why you would need that in the first place is beyond me. There's not really any reason for it other than just to be there. I don't know if it's to fill the void on this throttle shaft here or what, because your secondary throttle cable hookup is part of the base arm here, not the secondary arm that gets screwed to it. So if that screw is all that's going to keep this together and keep everything aligned, I put red Loctite on it because I feel like that's important and I don't want that to move again. So I'll just Loctite it, put it back together. This nut does have red Loctite on it as well. I did take it off, but I made sure to put red Loctite back on when I torqued it back down. And then my solution for our sidestepping problem, very easy. Just bend the bracket. Just grab some pliers and just barely bend this arm. You ain't got a reef on it. It's not like super hard metal. And then I also took the screw all the way out and filed the pointed edge off of it. So now it's just a snub base for the plate. See if I can actuate it here to smack against. So even in the event that this plate starts wobbling around and starts trying to sidestep the screw, it should just keep hitting the flat edge and we shouldn't have any other issues. Everything seems fairly tight after poking and prodding, like I said. So let's throw it on the car and see what we got. Alrighty, so as you can see, everything's hooked back up. The plate is no longer trying to sidestep the screw here. We have our base idle set back to about what it was. And the gas pedal no longer sticks. That's probably the best part. Right now, you can see I have it idling at about like 500 to 600, according to the tach, assuming the tach is accurate. And it falls right back to it. Just a quick little. Right back to it. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Well, thank you guys for sticking around and checking this video out. Hopefully this might help one of you guys if you guys are having the same kind of issue. As you can see, it's not a very difficult fix. So hopefully I catch you guys in the next video. Peace.